Assalamualaikum. My name is Alif Takif bin Abdul Rahim from Year 1 KBB program. Today, I will talk about the gastrointestinal system. When it comes to what your digestive system ultimately does, just think of it as a sort of disassembly line. Every food that we eat, our digestive system will deconstruct it both mechanically and chemically at the same time. The key players in the digestive system are alimentary canal and accessory digestive. Alimentary canal, which known as gastrointestinal tract, which runs from the mouth to the anus, that pass through pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small and large intestines. Accessory digestive are not the components of alimentary canal, but they are accessory components and they often have ducts that lead into the alimentary canal. There are many functions of the digestive system, which is intake, eating. Secondly, secretion. It secretes enzymes and nutrients. Next, mixing and propulsion. Food that we eat is mixed and pushed down towards the tract. This process is called peristalsis. Digestion of food both mechanically and chemically. Fourth is absorption. It is absorbed into the bloodstream. Different substances are absorbed at different areas of the tract. Small intestine will be primary sites for absorption for nutrients. Lastly, secretion is defecation, which is another word for pupae. Fun fact, there is stratified squamous epithelial tissue in the anus which helps to resist the abrasive of chewing. Mouth, aka oral cavity, a place where digestion starts. The mechanical and chemical breakdown of food through chewing and enzyme action. In the mouth, the anterior hard palate provides a hard surface for the tongue to mash food. Meanwhile, the soft palate forms a movable fold of flesh that closes off the nasopharynx that directs food down to the esophagus. Roughly, there are 32 teeth that are helped masticate or chew the food. Esophagus is a muscular tube that begins inferior to the laryngopharynx and positioned posterior to the trachea. Leaving the neck, it traverses the thoracic cavity down the posterior mediastinum before piercing the diaphragm through the esophageal hiatus.
Hello everyone, I'm Tanzafan and I'll be explaining about stomach. Stomach has four main regions, which is the cardia, fundus, body, and pylorus. The pylorus continues as the pyloric canal, and pyloric sphincter can be found at the end of the pyloric canal. Pyloric sphincter regulates the rate at which gastric contents are delivered into small intestine. For your information, the stomach and the esophagus are separated by lower esophageal sphincter. This is because esophagus does not have a protective mucous layer like the stomach. Lower esophageal sphincter stays open for about 5 seconds and it then closes to prevent the food and the digestive enzyme from the stomach flows back into the esophagus. The inner lining of the stomach contains gastric glands, which are made of different types of cells. These cells are responsible for the secretion of gastric juice and many other types of digestive juice. First of all, you can see here, this is the surface mucous cells, and then this is the mucous neck cells. These cells are responsible for the mucus secretion in the stomach. As we know that the secretion from the stomach is quite acidic, so the mucus secretion will form a protective coating for the stomach, which prevents the acidic gastric juices from digesting the stomach itself. Next is enteroendocrine cell, which is also known as G cell. G cells secrete gastrin, which is important in stimulate the parietal cells to secrete hydrochloric acid, which is HCl, cells involved in the secretion of hydrochloric acid, and intrinsic factor. For your information, intrinsic factor is important for the absorption of vitamin B12. The last cells is Chief cells, which secrete pepsinogen and gastric lipase. HCl is important in converting the pepsinogen to pepsin. Pepsinogen is the inactive form of enzyme, whereas pepsin is the active form of enzyme. This enzyme is important in the digestion of protein.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Rana Basira binti Marabi. I am from Dietetics Year 1. For my part, I would like to share about small intestine. So first of all, I would like to share the overview of small intestine. It is the longest part of gastrointestinal tract. It is from pyloric orifice of the stomach to ileocecal junction. Okay, also in small intestine, they do secretions of water, absorptions of nutrient, and produces mucus. Small intestine got 3 different parts, which are duodenum, the smallest one, And then we got the second one, the jejunum, and the third one, the ileum, the longest part of small intestine. Okay, next I would like to explain on how does small intestine works. First of all, the food chewed in the mouth will send down to esophagus, then ends up in the stomach. Then it will get churns in stomach as the food will get introduced to acid. And also when the foods get introduced to acid, it has their own term, which is chyme. Also the next one will be delivered to the first part of your small intestine, which is duodenum. Also the duodenum, most digestion happens in here. Then it will go to jejunum, which most of absorptions happens in here. After food pass to the jejunum, it will pass to ileum. Most of the important vitamins will absorb in here, which are vitamin B12, vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K.
Hello and good day to all. Now, I am going to present about my part, which is the pancreas. Our pancreas has an oblong structure and is located inferior to the stomach. Its function is to release bicarbonate to neutralize the intestinal content. Pancreas also produces enzymes that digest carbohydrates, protein, and fat. Pancreas has two main tissues, which is exocrine tissue and endocrine tissue. Exocrine tissue secretes digestive enzyme, while endocrine tissue secretes hormones into the bloodstream. Our pancreas is divided into several parts, which is head, neck, body, tail, and the uncinate process. Pancreatic duct is also known as duct of Wirsung. It joins the bile duct at the ampulla of Vater, which enters the descending part of the duodenum at the major duodenal papilla. There's also an accessory pancreatic duct, also known as duct of Santorini. There's a drain uncinate process in the lower part of the head. Lastly, there's also an opening in the second part of duodenum called minor duodenal papilla.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Safika binti Jimat. My metric number is 164578. And today I will explain about liver and large intestine.
Liver have role in digestion. It helps digest fat by making bile and help with vitamin absorption. Bile get produced by hepatocyte from liver lobule into gallbladder. From there, it goes into the duodenum, where it helps digest and absorb fat and fat-soluble vitamin. Break down fat into fatty acid, which can be taken into the body by digestive tract. Vitamin A and D are fat-soluble vitamins that depend on bile salt for absorption. The liver and the pancreas work together to control blood glucose level. When glucose level are low, the pancreas release glucagon. Glucagon breaks down liver glycogen to glucose, which can release into the bloodstream, raising blood glucose level. When blood glucose level are high, the pancreas sends out insulin. Insulin stimulates the liver to store glucose in the form of glycogen. It also tells the body to take glucose from blood, either it to use as energy or to store it for future use. Result in lower blood glucose in the bloodstream.
After that, large intestine divided to several parts. We will start it with cecum and then to colon, which have a major section: ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, sigmoid, and rectum. So the major function of large intestine is absorb water and salt from the material that has not been digested as food. Fiber, fat cell from lining of your intestine, salt, bile pigments, and water it's a mixture. So bacteria fit in this mixture, help bacteria produce valuable vitamin that absorb into blood and help digest fiber. It starts with cecum. Cecum take digest in liquid from ileum. And colon, ascending colon, push any undigested debris up from cecum to a location just under the right lower end of liver. And then transverse colon, debris will travel to the descending colon, sigmoid, and rectum. And the debris will come out as a poop through the anus.
Hi everyone, my name is Nurdin Atira binti Ahmad Shazali and I'm from Dietetics program. I would like to present about the digestion of proteins. There are three major parts to break down protein. The first one is mouth, then the second one is stomach, last but not least, the small intestines. Before we look into the details about the digestion of proteins, I want to show to you the pathway of food to reach the stomach and small intestine to undergo digestion. When we eat food, the food will enter the mouth. Food in the form of bolus passes through the esophagus before entering the stomach. As the digestion process in the stomach is completed, the digestion process is continuous in the small intestine. Let's look into the details about the digestion of protein in mouth. In mouth, the protein undergoes mechanical digestion. Food enters mouth, and the mechanical digestion begins with chewing, tearing, and mixing food with salivary juices to form a bolus. Next, as the mechanical digestion in mouth is completed, let's look into the digestion of protein in stomach. In stomach, hydrochloric acids denatures the protein. Then, the pepsinogen is activated to form pepsin. Pepsinogen is activated in the stomach lumen by hydrolysis. Pepsin breaks polypeptides chain into smaller polypeptides. The next one is digestion of protein in small intestine. The enzyme from the pancreas enters the small intestine. Polypeptides are broken down as the protein digestive enzymes from the pancreas continues to cleave peptide bonds, resulting in dipeptides, tripeptides, and single amino acids. A variety of different transport proteins move the products from protein digestion into mucosal cell. Some amino acids also share the same transport. Next, dipeptides and tripeptides enter the mucosal cell. Once inside the mucosal cell, they are broken down into single amino acids, which then can be absorbed. Amino acids pass from the mucosal cell into the blood and travel to the liver. Liver plays an important role to regulate the distribution of amino acid to the rest of the body. There are small amounts of dietary proteins lost in the feces.
Hi everyone, my name is Lisha Shen, and today I would like to talk about the summaries toward digestion of carbohydrate in our body. So since we know that digestion actually is a process which can break down the complex form of the foods into the simplest form of the nutrients so that it can be absorbed by small intestine. So it's very important for us to know about the classifications of carbohydrate, which it will begin with polysaccharide, which is starch, following by disaccharide, which is maltose, sucrose, and lactose. And the most simplest form is monosaccharide, which is glucose, fructose, and galactose. So mouth and small intestines will be the major parts for us to carry out the digestions of the carbohydrate. So if we try to combine both of these into one, it will be a diagram like this, which can easily to summarize the digestions of the carbohydrate. The digestion of the carbohydrate can be begins in the mouth, which starch have been break down into the maltose with the use of salivary amylase, which can be found in salivary gland. And when the foods have reached the small intestine, same thing happens. The rest of the starch will be broken down into maltose with the use of pancreatic amylase, which can be found in the pancreatic juice. And at the end of the small intestines, our body will try to carry out the last step, which the disaccharide will be broken down into monosaccharide, and in this case, maltose will be broken down into glucose with the use of maltase, sucrose will be broken down into glucose, and fructose with the use of sucrase, and the lactose will be broken down into glucose and galactose with the use of lactase, and these three of the enzyme can be found in intestinal gland. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nur Shafika binti Muhammad Zaini. So for my part, I will explain about the digestion and absorption of fats. Firstly, there is a small amount of lipid digestion will occur in your stomach. It is caused by the gastrophospholipase to produce in your stomach. Next, the bile is produced in the liver but stored in the gallbladder and released into the small intestine to aid in the digestion and absorption of the lipid. This process is called emulsification. Under the influence of bile, the fat will break into a tiny droplet of fat. Then, the enzyme pancreatic lipase is produced by the pancreas and released into the small intestine to break down the glyceride into monoglycerides, fatty acid, and glycerol. In the picture here, we can see that pancreas lipase helps the breakdown of ester linkage, which the final product is produced is soluble micelle, while triglyceride is insoluble. So we need to break down the triglyceride in the preparation for the next stage. After that, in the small intestine, the product from the fat digestion and bile acid from a micelle, which move towards the microvilli to allow the lipids to diffuse into the mucosal cell. Here is the structure of micelle, which is the red one is the hydrophilic, while the yellow one is the hydrophobic. Micelle consists of bile acids and digested lipids. The micelle will go through the microvilli and absorb it into mucosal cell. So, in the mucosal cell, the fatty acid and monoglycerides are reassembled into triglyceride and incorporated into lipid transport particle called chylomicron, which enter the lymph vessel. So, let's conclude the stage of the digestion and absorption of the fats. The first stage, in the stomach, small digestion occurs. Then, go to the small intestine. In small intestine, breakdown of glycerides, then product from the digestion and bile acids from a micelle and diffuse into mucosal cell. in mucosal cells, chylomicron into the lymph vessel, and the last one is excreting the feces.